Look at creating an arithmetic quiz in D2L. So at this point I would assume you're okay at building quizzes. So we're going to go into our quizzes depending where your tab is, and we'll go into our new quiz, and we know all about these tabs here. I'm just going to call it math quiz. Okay, and I'm going to just focus on a specific type of question we're going to build, and that specific type is arithmetic, and it's very similar to significance. So if you can do arithmetic, don't worry, you can figure this one out really quickly. It's more like just using base 10 as answers. But arithmetic has a lot of options. So again, get a titling system. So I'm going to call it, I don't know, adding. Okay, I'll work on adding. Maybe it's worth 1 point. I'll say if it's difficult. Okay, when you build the question, you need to include variables in it. And I'll show you down here is we're going to set our parameters for our variables. So it's at the end. It might be the first thing you want to do. I might say I want 3 variables. So variable A, variable B, and I'm going to add one more variable. I can add 2. And in fact, you know what? Let's add 2 just to show you that idea. So we have variable A, B, C, and D. Okay, and I'm going to give them parameters. I could have a minimum of 0 and a maximum of 100. A B might have a minimum of negative 100 and a max of 0. And this could be 1 to 2, and this could be negative 100 to positive 100. Again, this is whatever you want to call them. You can have them go up to a certain amount of decimal places. So this will go all integers and up to tenths, so 0.0 to 0.9 for decimal places. I'm going to keep them as integers. You can have them step. They can go up in 2s. They can go up in 6s. All of these are handy for what we're doing. Okay. So I have set my variables here. I'm going to go back up. In my question, I might say I want them to add 6 plus 7 plus 8 plus 9. But because it's certain as variables, what this will do is it'll generate new numbers every single time. So instead what I'm going to do is I represent each variable with a curly bracket. Okay, so when I write curly bracket A, what the program will do will substitute the randomly generated number for A into that. Okay, I want plus variable B plus variable C plus variable D. And again, they all have to be in curly brackets, otherwise, and I'll write it below just so you see, A plus B plus C plus D. When we go to preview, you'll notice that these will be written as A, B, C, D. Okay? Formula. This is really important. In order for the computer to mark this question, we have to tell it what formula to use. Now, this one's really straightforward. You might just go A plus, and you have to use the curly brackets again, B plus C plus D. Okay. It might be more complex. You might want to change something from standard to vertex form and ask for what the x value is with a quadratic. There's so many things. You've got to get creative with your formulas, but this is the basic idea. Okay, and what here is we can test our formula. So before I even move on, I'm going to test it. And here we go. These are the randomly generated numbers, 22, negative 83, 2 and 32. They put them in for those values. The solution was negative 27. And you notice I don't have any range, and we'll talk about that. Okay, so it randomly generated those values. Okay, I might want precision. Now, I actually don't suggest precision. Just because what happens is it makes it very exact. If I say 2 decimal places, if you get an answer 15 and you don't put 15.00 when you're enforcing precision, then the answer is wrong. So I never enforce precision. I might want my answer to accept up to 2 decimal places. Now we know we had integers below, so there won't be any decimal places, but it's good to have that leeway. And tolerance here. Tolerance is actually talking about leeway. I can have a tolerance of 1 integer plus or minus. I could have 10 integers. I could have 0.5 integers. Or I can make the tolerance a percentage of the value. Maybe I want it to be 10% tolerance plus or minus, or 4%, right? I tend to play with units, and I'll say 1, even though there's really no need in this adding integer question, okay? Case insensitive usually helps, okay? And we can give question feedback. I'm not going to. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get a preview. So let's preview our question. And here we go. They randomly generated values. Remember, we use negative. So we get this little problem here that I generated a negative 77. So your student might have to figure out how do we add a negative value. And remember, I didn't put the curly brackets here, so it just wrote them as letters, which makes sense because you might want to write words. And the randomly generated numbers come out, and this tells you the answer should have been 72 for the student. So in my question, it'd make more sense if I gave a little bit of instruction. I'll say, please add the following numbers. Okay, and we'll get rid of this thing down here. And again, let's preview. This is what the question would read for the student, and this is what the answer should be. Now, with this idea, because it randomly generates numbers, you can essentially replace textbooks because the amount of questions that can be here is almost infinite, or compared to a textbook, which is limited to its size. Okay, so I'm going to save this question. I liked it, and again, here are the questions. You'll notice we have, we can move them, edit their values or whatever. And we can say we're done editing our question. And just to show you what it looks like, maybe I want to, I'm going to save and close. So I'm very happy with this quiz. And I want to just quickly take a look at it. I think it was called Math Quiz. Oh, even close. I want to actually go in and visit it. So I'm going to show you how to add the quiz into content. So in my content, creating quizzes, because it already exists, I'm going to go to the quizzes that I already made, and I really have 3 here. So I'm going to add that math quiz. And again, I want to take it off of draft. I want it to be published here. So we go into math quiz, and we can preview it as a student if we like. Okay, so it gives us some instruction. I really didn't put much instruction outside of it. But here's our question. Blah, blah, blah. I say 78. I save all my responses, and I submit my quiz. Yes, submit, submit. And it's been submitted. So because I didn't tell it to return a score to me, and I got the answer wrong, it just told me my answer. It didn't tell me what the right answer was, okay? And you can affect all those things in your quizzing setup. And I assume if you're unsure, you can watch the other video on how to set up quizzes in order to figure that out.